A lot of things going on here.
A lot of things going on.
Hi, Justin.
All right, let's get started.
What's your real job?
All right, my real job. All right, my name is Justin Korn, and I'm a part of the corporate communications team at Adidas.
Yes.
And I am here today with Billie Jean. And let me just tell you, if there was a Mount Rushmore for tennis figures, accomplishments on and off the court, I do believe Billie Jean would be one, if not all of the faces.
Nice.
So actually, to start things off, I would just like to go back in time when I met Candace Parker for the first time. And she was walking through the door. She had just come from the Adidas archive where she saw some of the coolest memorabilia that's at her headquarters. I asked her what her favorite thing was, and guess what she said?
I have no idea.
Your track jacket.
My track jacket?
Your track jacket.
Oh, she just taught, she just sent me something to show up for her, because she's got a new book coming out. But I never get to really sit down with her and talk with her, but now I can give her a bad time about this. So
Definitely, you can bring it up.
That's so cute.
And I would just like to find out, what's the connection with the track jacket? How does that?
Oh, we used to wear all the tracksuits in the old days. Oh, they're great track. It's the iconic one. 3 stripes down the side, 3 stripes on the jacket. Love them. And they still look great.
They definitely do. They're very classy.
I know, they're classy and classic. I love it.
And now kind of staying back in time a little bit, you've been an Adidas ambassador for quite some time. So it's common. Well, it's common knowledge that women or girls of a certain age will drop sports when they reach teenage years.
Usually.
And so as an ambassador, you were a part of the initiatives to get women and girls to continue sports. And I was just curious, when did that collaboration start?
I don't know the dates, but I remember when it happened. It's a few years ago, but the important thing is, what do you do? How do you keep a girl active and all that? And usually when around puberty, she wants to drop out of everything. So it's really important to keep her in sports. If you can keep a girl in sports, she's more likely to graduate. She's more resilient. She's much more of a better leader. They're better in science and math. They're finding 94% of women in C-suites at the top of companies identify with being an athlete. And half of them went to D1 schools in the United States. I mean, got a full athletic scholarship as well as academic. So it's really important if you can get a girl to exercise and stay in sports for her life, for the quality of her life, and actually for the quality of the people around her and children also. She's a better, stronger mother, and it helps for girls to see that. It's very important that dads really believe in their girls as much as their sons as well. And my dad believed in me as much as my brother. And my brother went on to play Major League Baseball. But because my dad believed in me as much as my brother, man, I got it. It meant so much to me as a child. And I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons I made it to the top, because my dad said, go for it, and he gave me confidence.
I mean, it's a pretty incredible family story, and that kind of goes into your perseverance. I know at 11 years old, you wanted to be number one.
Yes.
At 12 years old, you wanted to take women, go from amateur and professional. And one thing I'm super curious about, because then you get 9 women together to sign a $1 contract, take a huge risk. How did you balance being a professional, trying to get to that one, and then also creating this women's
I didn't do it
tennis
for women.
association?
I did it for both.
Okay.
I always wanted tennis to be different, to be a pro sport for boys and girls. And it did become a pro sport in '68. I wanted the men and women to be together as an association or a union. The men said no many times and continue to say no, although it's starting to shift a little internally. I'm hoping before I'm out of here that the men and women will be one association, because that's always been my dream for our sport, that we can do so much together, not just on the court, but how we can make the world a better place off the court. And if we're together, and the guys aren't buying it yet. It's pretty funny though. They're getting much better though. Everyone's coming together more than they used to.
And to carry the weight of the tennis world on your shoulders at such a young age, and to learn about the business, how were you able to balance that? Was that something you grew into, or did you always have that as part of your identity of being curious?
Oh, being curious, that was my nickname at home. My parents said, "You're too curious. Stop, you're killing us. Too many questions." But I liked all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it when we started, when my former husband and I owned tournaments. Larry King is his name that I've kept. And we own tournaments. We know what it felt like to invest And you're going to win sometimes, you're going to lose sometimes, but we learned the business, and I learned all of it. I liked it. I like business. I like investing. I have a good stomach for it. Even if we lose everything, I'm okay. I keep going.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't do that. They just get crazed, but I don't. I get crazed about changing things, but I don't get crazed when things don't go right. I get, okay, let's keep going. Just let's start over.
That's amazing. And yeah, that kind of goes into my next topic of resilience. I know in 1981 you were outed, and it was very difficult because you were losing endorsements.
Everything overnight. 24 hours, that wouldn't happen today, which is great.
And how did you maintain that mindset, that positive self-talk that really carried you through?
I think the truth sets you free. I think my truth, I wasn't allowed to talk about in the 70s because I was told if I do, I was trying to find myself. I didn't know what I was at the time in the 70s. And they said, if you talk about what you're feeling, we're not going to have a tour. So that made it real simple because the tour is much more important than I am on that. And so that was easy. But in 81, when I was outed, it eventually helped me set myself free. But nobody would lose everything now. In fact, they'd be celebrated. And that was my wish. I said, I would never wish this on my worst enemy. So I was always hoping that maybe if others didn't have to go through what I did, then it was worth it. And I think they didn't. I mean, it changed. It did change things after that.
Wow, that's very selfless. And something that I'm curious about as well is you're not just a leader on the court, you're a leader off the court, you're an entrepreneur. And you were even talking about your mother who, she wouldn't outright say that she was an athlete because
she's a girl.
Because she's
a
a girl.
woman. I said, Mommy, why did you keep talking about this?
So that's actually what I'm curious about is how did you develop that voice to speak, not just for athletes, but at the boardroom table, in front of owners of teams and
I think my dad made the difference. That's why I think dads are so important for girls. And I don't think they realize it sometimes. And they need to know that it's just as important to believe in if you have a daughter as well as your son or whatever gender they may be, that it's very important to be loving and good and kind to the children. It shouldn't matter what gender or sex they are. It just shouldn't matter. They're a human being first. Although my parents were very homophobic. That was my one challenge I had. But then I decided I was going to give them as much time to feel their pain over this as I had spent. And I had spent a good decade or more. So I promised myself, if it took me that long, I have to give them time to feel the pain and to go through discussing it, and then we'll see where they end up. And they were, great. Especially my dad was great. My mother took longer. My mother had the trouble, but it's very interesting how I don't know, these hardships on all of us sometimes could make you stronger. The person or made me stronger.
Definitely. And you've even talked about when it came to the Dodgers ownership, that came about because there was a part of you that said, I shouldn't ask this question, and then you asked this question.
I finally asked for what I wanted. Yeah. Because girls are taught to not ask for what we want and need. We're totally told that in every which way, through silence, through no silence. But girls, if you just watch for a day, what the feedback we get about don't want too much, make sure you take care of others. It's okay to want something, no matter what you are, man, woman, it doesn't matter. I met Mark Walter, who's the controlling partner of the Dodgers. And he said, I want to make you guys part of the Sparks, which is a women's basketball. But I grew up with the Dodgers as a child. And I said, what about the Dodgers? And he said, why not? I almost went, wow. I can't believe I asked for what I wanted. Like, oh, thank you. But he said, why not? He just immediately said, why not? That's how we became part of the ownership group.
So you'd say you're pretty self-aware of when that voice is telling you, don't say that.
Right.
And you probably see it in other women too.
Oh, I see it every time. It already happened today. When I was talking to the employees at Adidas, someone came up to me and she said, I'm a terrible tennis player, but I like it. I said, every woman tells me the same thing. I've only had 2 men ever come up to me and say, well, I'm not very good. It's very interesting. I just learned so much from others coming up to me and how they approach me, how they ask questions. But the women don't like to ask. But they always say, I'm terrible. I'm terrible, but I like it. The guys come up and say, I like something.
Yeah.
Do you like tennis? Yes. Do you like what you do? Yes. I said, that's great. Good enough. I don't care what level you are, if you like it. I know, but they always have these prefaces that, oh, I'm not any good, I shouldn't do this. No.
Mhm.
So sometimes I ask them to do it over again. I'll say, just tell me what you like and we'll start there. And they go, I like tennis, and then we start.
And how would you encourage the younger generation of women, or those people that feel underrepresented, to really speak up and to maybe put themselves in uncomfortable situations or apply for the job that's a leadership position?
You just did it.
Well,
Just go for it. What's the worst thing that can happen? That they say no?
mhm.
Great, start over. I mean, it can be horrible and feel horrible for a while. It's really important not to take anything personally either.
That's true.
It's really important, especially in business, because that's where you get yourself in trouble. Oh, they don't like me. They don't like, no. Don't take anything personally.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to authenticity. I know that's very important to you. Being your authentic self and not shying away from it. So when it comes to creating those safe spaces of authenticity, how would you go about doing that?
Well, I think you have to know if it's safe. That's number one.
Okay.
And if you size it up, it's safe, then it's really important to be yourself, I think, if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But we all struggle. I mean, nobody has it right every time.
It's true. I mean, I'm learning a lot just from this interview alone. So it's really encouraging.
What do you do in your life? I mean, how does that go for you? What do you think people should do?
For me, it's also just a matter of really listening to people, and it's interesting hearing you speak, because I really do try to employ a lot of that in whether I'm meeting somebody who is a high level, say even senior manager, or somebody who's just maybe even an intern. Is just making sure that everybody feels like they've contributed as much as they can, and to not feel nervous.
I think you said the magic word, listen. Actively listening to someone is major. Really hearing what they say.
And then actually, when you gave a commencement speech, you talked about a mantra, pressure is a privilege. And at first hearing it actually made me nervous. So I was curious how you apply, especially the world we're living in, which is very uncertain. How do you kind of hone in that mantra and use it about their day-to-day business?
Well, actually, how it happened was during Federation Cup, or Fed Cup, I guess it was by then, 1995. It's the World Cup of women's tennis. And they actually named it after me now. So it's called the Billie Jean King Cup, which is so embarrassing to say, right? No, I shouldn't be embarrassed. Everyone keeps saying, just say it like it's normal. It's never going to be normal. But anyway, it's called Billie Jean King Cup now. I was the captain or the coach of the American team back around 2000. And Lindsay Davenport was one of the players.
Oh, wow.
And she came over to me. She's 6'3", and I'm a little, I'm like, hi, Linz. She comes over to me, and she looks down at me, of course, and I look up. I go, yes. She says, I have trouble with her. What am I supposed to do? And she's like, you can tell she's just feeling so much pressure and feeling so much emotion. And I looked up to her, and I go, champions adjust, and pressure's a privilege. And she looked down at me, and she goes, oh, I like that. I love that. Okay, I think that'll help me. She won the match. Yes. And the U.S. won that time.
I mean, in my mind, tennis is one of the loneliest sports.
Really?
Well, it's just one person with tons of people watching. And I am curious, how did you manage with all those kinds of pressures as you were serving or even double faulting and
Well, I grew up in team sport, all team sports. Tennis was my last sport because Susan Williams asked me in 5th grade, do you want to play tennis? And I said, what's tennis? To me, tennis is a team as well, because like when we started the Women's Tennis Association, I was trying to explain to the women, we're like a team. We're an association. We're going to work together to make our sport bigger and better. I want more and more kids and children to have the opportunity. Now we know that tennis is the healthiest sport in the world. We've done all kinds of research, Mayo Clinic and all these, and we live almost 10 years longer than average. So if I can give the gift of tennis to a child, you can play individual or team. We have everything actually, and I love it. Women's sports is just at a tipping point to absolutely go through the sky, because I waited my whole life for this. And we really are truly at a moment in time that women's sports is going to start rocking big time. Women control 80% of spending money. Women have no idea the power we have. They don't use it, but we have it. And they haven't figured that out yet.
And what's more competitive, actually playing tennis or entrepreneurship?
They're both similar.
Yeah.
except, no, they are different. When you play a sport, it's more objective.
Yeah.
And it's subjective. When you have human beings discussing or being calculating and all those things. So I think it's really important. Just you have more control when you're playing as an athlete.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because it's objective. There's a score. I lost or I won 6-1, 6-2. Most jobs, most everything is subjective.
Yeah.
Unless they're just looking at how much money did you make for the company, which doesn't really work like that because usually you have other people involved and all that. So it's more subjective.
So when you are at those, when you are in the stands of the tennis stadiums watching these marquee matches,
oh, they're fantastic.
Well, the one thing I'm curious about is, especially since your longevity in the sport, and you mentioned earlier off camera that you had given Nadal a trophy. What's going through your mind?
I gave his 14th, his final French, well, I should say Roland Garros championship. Who was a great, famous aviator, I think of the First World War.
And so seeing how the game has evolved, I mean, you kicked off that momentum. How does that feel?
It's unbelievable how good they are today, especially off the ground, because the rackets are different, but their technique's better and different. Oh my God, every generation gets better. Oh, they're unbelievable. I just sit there and go, I wish I could play like that, you know, like, but I knew every generation would get better. My parents used to tell me that anyway, my brother and me. Just remember, every generation gets better. Okay, and they're right, but they were right. And I've seen probably 6 generations in my lifetime now. Yeah. And every generation is just amazing. But
so I can sense that the excitement for you has never died down. In fact, it's just intensified.
But I love, and the women just get better and better. They're bigger, stronger, and now, you know, I talked about Lindsay Davenport, and Venus is 6'2", I guess, and I thought they were tall. They're all like that now. You know, it's like, hi, so I can get a stiff neck saying hi to everybody. No, but the women are amazing. And this Andreeva, this kid.
Oh, yes. Very exciting.
She wants to be #1. She will be. As long as they stay healthy, you don't know what life's going to bring you and the setbacks, but she's an amazing athlete.
But now I can understand why you're smiling in the stands and
oh my God, they're so
raring
good.
to go.
They are unbelievable how well, they're just great athletes.
So, Billie Jean, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me.
It's great to see you.
And thanks for visiting our campus.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's been fun.